If you know me at all, you probably know that I am a super indecisive person. I don't really have one aesthetic. I kind of like to explore a bunch of different aesthetics. I am still trying to find my style, and I do tend to gravitate towards like darker color palettes usually, like dark academia, dark fairycore, or like kind of dark edgy outfits. But I really just love exploring different aesthetics. I love learning about different fashion styles and trying them out. I don't know how you can pick just one fashion style when there's so many cool aesthetics out there. And I think that's the beauty of fashion, is that you can play around with different fashion styles and aesthetics, learn more about different styles, the history behind them, and you can use those to express your mood for the day, express how you're feeling, and just play around with it. So today we're going to talk about lesser known and obscure aesthetics. Again, this is basically part 2 of my other video on lesser known and obscure aesthetics. And I'm also going to try to include some aesthetic predictions for 2022 towards the end of this video. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, let me know which aesthetics that you liked, or if there's any other aesthetics you want me to cover. Subscribe, follow me on Instagram at DRESSRELIEF and on TikTok at DRESSRELIEF for more fashion and aesthetic content. And let's get started. So the first aesthetic I'm going to talk about is Y2K, but specifically Bella Swan / Elena Gilbert Y2K, basically twilightcore. Twilightcore is an aesthetic that I noticed got really popular on TikTok last year around the time Netflix released all the Twilight movies. I'm really surprised this fashion style got super popular because it's really late 2000s, early 2010s, which I feel like we barely just started going into early 2000s aesthetics, so it's really weird to see how fast 2010s is making a comeback. But I do think these outfits are pretty cute and pretty easy to achieve because a lot of them are basics and should be pretty easy to thrift. The first basics I'd look for this aesthetic would be a lace camisole and a long sleeve top with a scoop neck or a v-neck, or maybe like a Henley style with a few buttons here. Something that will let you show off the lace camisole underneath it for that classic look. I'd especially go for dark gemstone and earthy colors, and I think long sleeves in general are a good basic to have, but for short sleeves you can also go for like a Henley short sleeve top or like a baby doll fit. I feel like those are also pretty common. I'd also go for low-rise or mid-rise bottoms for that Y2K vibe, especially low-rise or mid-rise bootcut jeans. For outerwear, I go for hoodies, cardigans, or like a canvas jacket or anorak. For shoes and accessories, I'd go for some comfy sneakers like Converse, for example, some silver jewelry, especially like edgy jewelry. And for bags, I go for like a tote bag, a crossbody bag, or one of those Y2K shoulder bags or baguette purse, or a messenger bag. Or a backpack if you're still in school, that works too. And then I also think like arm warmers or fingerless gloves could fit this aesthetic. Some brands to look for when thrifting these items would be like Abercrombie, Hollister, American Eagle. I feel like these carried a lot of these styles back in the day, and I used to shop their sale sections religiously. I feel like they definitely had these items. I also think a lot of these basic items for the twilightcore aesthetic can be used for like dark fairycore or grunge fairy. So if you want to look into those aesthetics, I do have some videos on it, so check it out. Next, let's talk about angelcore, which is a super pretty and ethereal aesthetic, and based on the name you can probably tell it's very much inspired by angels, cherubs, doves, halos, and similar motifs. For a color palette, I definitely look for white, gold, and pastel colors, especially light blue and pink. And in general, I would look for really flowy and romantic silhouettes, fabrics like silk and lace, and sheer flowy fabrics. Feathers would be common in this aesthetic, as well as floral motifs, pretty flowy nightgowns. You might also see some crosses and rosaries, fake halos, and fake wings, of course to go with that angel inspiration. For shoes, I would go for some ballet flats, strappy heels, or like kitten heels. And for jewelry, I definitely go for some dainty gold jewelry or vintage inspired jewelry. On the other hand, an aesthetic that I thought was really interesting that I found while looking into angelcore is the fallen angel aesthetic, which like the name sounds is basically like angelcore but a fallen angel. So it's still very ethereal but more sorrowful and has a lot of dark imagery to it. Some common motifs for this aesthetic, according to the aesthetics wiki page, would be angel statues, black wings, flowing white or black fabrics, fire, halos, horns and tails, the sky and ground, snakes, and more. And in terms of fashion, basically just take angelcore and make it black and gothic. Next is balletcore, which is an aesthetic that has been predicted by many people to be super big this year, and I'm kind of starting to see it already. Like the name suggests, it's an aesthetic inspired by ballet dancers, so we can expect to see ballet flats or ballet pumps, high buns, tulle skirts, and in general pretty flowy silhouettes, ethereal yet comfortable. Some other basics for balletcore would be bodysuits, wrap tops or skirts or dresses, cardigans, leggings and leg warmers, and for color palettes, I probably see a lot of neutral colors and of course light pink. And for materials, I would look for like lace, silk, tulle, flowy romantic fabrics, as well as like stretchy, comfy, athleisure kind of materials. I also made a TikTok showing a ballet academia outfit, so like ballet core plus dark or light academia, and so many people asked me about the shoes I was wearing, which had lace-up ties that go around the leg, very much similar to ballet slippers or point shoes. And so I really think that balletcore aesthetic is gonna be popular this year, and I'm thinking of doing a balletcore outfits video next week, so look out for that. The next aesthetic I wanted to talk about is solarpunk, which is really interesting. I never heard of this aesthetic before someone suggested it in the comments, and according to the aesthetics wiki, it's a genre of speculative fiction that is also its own distinguished aesthetic, focusing on renewable energy, living in harmony with nature, and the better future envisioned through both. So it's basically a vision of the future that embodies the best of what humanity can achieve. There isn't really a defined fashion style for solarpunk yet, but I think like that's kind of the beauty of it. When I looked up some solarpunk fashion or outfits, I saw very like post-apocalyptic looking outfits, and then I also saw kind of ethereal goddess looking kind of outfits and like pretty long gowns in gold and white. But I feel like the important thing when it comes to solarpunk is that fashion is sustainable. So I feel like anything sustainable or ethically sourced should fit in with the solarpunk aesthetic. Personally, for a solarpunk wardrobe, I would imagine pretty futuristic silhouettes and long flowy silhouettes, because in the future we should all be comfortable when it comes to fashion. And for a color palette, I would go for earthy and natural colors, because I feel like solarpunk would use naturally dyed fabrics because of its emphasis on sustainability. I don't really know if I can come up with basics for this aesthetic because it's really not strictly defined, and I feel like anything goes with solarpunk as long as your clothing is ethically sourced. But since I mentioned like long flowy silhouettes earlier, I would go for like long flowy pants or like harem pants, long scarves that you can like throw on and wrap around you or even wear as like a top, long flowy skirts and dresses, puff sleeve blouse, drapey cardigans, like almost kind of kimono inspired cardigans. Or if you want more of that post-apocalyptic vibe, look for like ripped detailing, or you can do that yourself, like long stringy clothing items like how you see on those like what I would wear as a fashion student in NYC TikToks, if you know what I'm talking about. And if you want to go for more of that ethereal solarpunk look, I would go for gold jewelry and celestial inspired jewelry, and even like gold headpieces or like body jewelry. But for my research, it seems like anything really goes for solarpunk. Next, I wanted to talk about knightcore, which like the name suggests is inspired by knights. I first heard about this when I posted this picture of myself on Instagram, and someone commented that it was kind of knightcore-ish, and I could definitely see the inspiration, and I thought that was really cool that I kind of made a knightcore look without even knowing it. In terms of fashion, according to the aesthetics wiki again, some items and details to look for would be layering, for example firm fabrics on top of soft fabrics, which you can kind of see in my outfit, tuck shirts, leather, metal, headpieces like small crowns, sun and moon motifs, corsets, puff sleeves, gloves, vests, belts, buckles, and jewelry, especially rings and bracelets, and I would go for silver jewelry because knights, silver, boots, chains, and small bags and pouches. And finally, for a color palette, look for like silver, black, brown, and royal colors like red, blue, dark green, purple. And the last aesthetic I'll talk about today is paleocore, which is an aesthetic inspired by paleontology and dinosaurs. I personally think this aesthetic is really similar to adventurecore when it comes to fashion. So you'd want like an earthy color scheme like greens, tans, and browns, and for paleocore, comfort is key. So this is very similar to adventurecore. You really want comfortable clothing such as like hiking boots, steel-toed boots, button-up shirts, a backpack or rucksack, khaki pants or shorts, sun hats, sunglasses, long socks, belts, whether that's a leather belt or a cloth belt, and walking sticks. So I think it's kind of like adventure core, but more safari chic, you know, like you're going on an adventure into the jungle or going on a safari or something like that. Now, my personal predictions for aesthetics in 2022, like I mentioned earlier, balletcore, many people have said it will blow up in 2022, and I really think that's the case. I already see it starting to get popular. Another prediction I had like last year, but it's already starting to come true, is the 2010s will come back. So we're already starting to see this with twilightcore. That was very much late 2000s, 2010s, and that already made a comeback. But I also think the Tumblr girl 2010s would come back, which I think is starting to happen already. And there's been a lot of criticism on that because a lot of like unhealthy habits were promoted during that era on Tumblr. But if we're just talking about the fashion, like I always wanted to be one of those like grunge Tumblr girls, so I'm happy the aesthetic is coming back, but of course I really hope like the unhealthy promotion of like skinniness and like smoking and things like that won't come back. This user at Old Loser in Brooklyn also mentioned like Avant Apocalypse and Dunecore would be popular, especially with the movie Dune coming out. And then I just read up on solarpunk, which also had some post-apocalyptic inspiration to it. So I feel like that could be popular as well. And then in terms of some aesthetics that are really popular right now, such as like dark academia, cottagecore, and fairycore, I think the dark academia is kind of plateauing, and I think it'll like stay the same, or maybe like popularity will go down a bit, but it always kind of peaks in the fall and winter because the aesthetic is naturally very suited for cold weather. I think cottagecore is not as popular as it was in 2020, of course, when it first blew up, but I think it'll still be really popular, especially for spring and summer, because it's like the perfect aesthetic for spring and summer. And with fairycore, I think it's still growing, so I think it's still going to be really popular, maybe start to plateau a bit, but I still see like a lot of activity on my fairycore videos, so I think it's still going to be pretty popular. And same goes with grunge fairy, I think they go hand in hand. So that's pretty much all I have to say on aesthetic predictions for 2022. Basically just went off of what other people have been predicting and what I have been seeing in my own content. But who knows, I could be completely wrong, or maybe some other aesthetic will pop up sometime this year that I will have fun exploring as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like these aesthetics. Let me know again if you want me to cover any more aesthetics. Follow me on Instagram at @DRESSRELIEF and on TikTok at DRESSRELIEF, and I'll see you guys next time.